Good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review. I am DM Bloodworth, and as you can see by the graphics, uh, today is the first day of the Independent Tabletop Role Playing Game Month. So, July 2023, this is the first inaugural month of this recognition and celebration of independent and OSR RPGs. And I give special thanks to Professor Dungeon Master of Dungeon Craft for inspiring this. A few days ago, he came out and he put up a video calling upon those of us that are, really steeped into this hobby, of tabletop role playing games. And, he called for us to spend this month, the month of July, just focusing on uh, games and game systems and other products within the tabletop role playing hobby that are coming from independent and i.e. small publishers out there. And there are so many out there that just never see the light of day, and they're certainly deserving of that in many cases. And there's no way to find those hidden gems if we all keep them hidden, right? So when you come across some of these game systems that are really deserving of that exposure, I think it's incumbent upon us, for the health of our hobby, to get out there and to just showcase these every once in a while. So if we all focus, as Professor Dungeon Master asked, if we all focus on exposing these during the month of July, perhaps we'll make some small time creators, summer that much better. And and as well make your gaming experience over the summertime be that much better as well, because a lot of these are hidden gems. Now, a bit of a disclaimer: I am, of course, showcasing Eldritch Hack, which is Dan Masters, i.e., Professor Dungeon Master. Uh, I'm showcasing his game, and so he did not ask me to do this. I didn't ask him. I didn't tell him. I didn't. There was just no prompting of this. I just figured it would be the best thanks that I can give to him for coming up with this idea, is to showcase his game. So last night I had jumped on Drive Through RPG. I saw that I had some money in my account, and this RPG was $6 for the PDF. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna just pick it up, and this will be my first episode. So Eldritch Hack is what I'm going to jump into right now. I'm going to switch views here and go right into it. So, Dungeon University Press presents Eldritch Hack, a rules light horror RPG. This includes the bonus scenario of Cloakhouse. It's written by Dan Masters, that is Professor Dungeon Master. And it, once again, rules light horror RPG, fairly recent, so 2022. Okay, and let's see, let's give some shout outs to other individuals as well. So, art layouts and additional writing by Jason McDonald, edited by Christina Stiles. Special thanks to Hankarin Fernali, which is Runehammer, and from Runehammer Games and such. He goes by a bunch of names. Character sheet concept is by Freya Young Saldivar. If I mispronounce, I apologize. Table of contents. So we have an introduction, the rules, character creation, occupations, character names, game master section, combat, physical damage and recovery, rewards, lore, and spells, designing scenarios, which is really nice that that is in here. And then we'll go into examples of scenarios, which I'm not going to spoil anything in this video. I will just hit a few of the things and show a few of the things there, but I will not spend any time revealing too much about the scenario. All right. So one thing I will say is that this is a PDF only as of now. I don't know if there's any chances of this coming out in print or print on demand. But this is very, very ink intensive if you're going to print this out. So would have been nice if there was a different option, even if you change this to black and white. It's going to suck up a lot of ink, just so you know. All right. So, the most merciful thing in the world, I think, is the inability of human mind to correlate all its contents. All right. So, H.P. Lovecraft. So, Eldritch Hack role playing game is a rules light system for running Lovecraftian horror scenarios. Set in the 1920s to 50s, it stresses above all else storytelling over mechanics and features bleak scenarios where characters are victims, not heroes. In most scenarios, winning means just surviving. Here are a few of the game's features. Uh, just with that little disclaimer, basically, if you've played old school Call of Cthulhu, that is exactly it. It's like if you survive, that is technically winning. And in many cases, your character was either going to die, go completely insane, or run away before they even got to the end of the adventure. So there was very few. There was no such thing as technically winning because the outcomes were that bleak. So, getting back to the game features, high compatibility with other RPGs. You can use your favorite horror scenarios and campaigns with Eldritch Hack RPG with minimal effort. It uses the D20s for checks. The base target for tests is 10. The game master adjusts the target number according to the circumstances, and the player tries to roll it. All right. Only for stats. It takes about 5 minutes to create a completely detailed character, which is a good thing if it is as brutal as it potentially can be. Uh, Easy to learn, fast to play. The rules can be learned in a few minutes. Zones, no terrain needed. The easy to use zone system maximizes clarity and minimizes arguments over everyone's position. Tone. We've noticed other horror games wander into Indiana Jones and Aliens territory. This is an attempt to return to the roots of the source material, academics who have unwittingly stumbled upon secrets man was not meant to know. And a thank you for purchasing Eldritch Hack, which I was perfectly happy to do so. Okay, so the rules. Tests. The player states the character's action. The game master sets a target number for the action success called a target number and or TN from 1 to 20. Remember, the base is 10. The player rolls a d20 and adds or subtracts applicable modifiers. If the total score equals or exceeds the target number, the character succeeds at the test. Otherwise, the character fails. Critical hits and failures, a roll of a natural 20 is a critical success. A roll of a natural 1 is a critical failure. So very, very uniform throughout. Determining the target number, the default difficulty is always a 10. Here are the general guidelines. So if there's something fairly easy, then it would have a target number of a 5. If it's nearly impossible, it could have a target number of a 20. One thing this doesn't mention is that not everything requires a roll. Sometimes there could be something that is easier than easy, right? It's so routine that you just, putting on your shoes, your socks and your shoes isn't something that you should have to roll, right? So very, very mundane and simple things, opening up a drawer should not require a roll. So that's the one thing. Don't over roll things when there is a very rules light system. Skilled or unskilled. Other games include detailed skill lists, not this one. Eldritch Hack RPG is different. Every character has a wide range of skills related to their profession expressed as a single stat skill. When characters attempt something in their range of expertise, they add their skill stat to the d20 roll. If the GM determines that the task is outside the character's field of knowledge, the player may receive a penalty to the roll. And basically, you would make it, well, this is now difficult or highly difficult, for them because it's not within their wheelhouse. Is that it? Yes. No rule set can cover everything your crazy players will try to do. We leave it up in the hands of the capable GM whom we trust implicitly. This then is the only real rule. In GMs we trust. So basically, it's rulings over rules. Very old school concept that dates all the way back to the very beginning with Dave Arneson having all the rules in his head rather than written down on paper, and even Gary Gygax introducing all of these exceptions to following the rules as written. So the GM is the ultimate interpreter and arbiter of all rules and may change any rule that does not make logical sense, gets in the way of telling a good story, or inhibits the player's fun. Okay? Character creation. Most characters are middle-aged academics who unwittingly stumble upon the secrets man was not meant to know. With this in mind, here is how you create a character. Roll your ability scores. Choose an occupation. Note the skills on the character sheet on page 17. Choose your character name. So this is the character sheet. And there's one that is very colorized like this one. And then there is a print-friendly version of it as well coming up. So rolling ability scores. Characters are defined by 4 ability scores: skill, lore, hit points, and sanity. Skill, a measure of the character's expertise in their chosen field. Any time a character attempts to do something that falls within their area of expertise, they add their skill to the roll to their they add their skill to the roll to their test. To determine a character's level of skill, roll 3d6 and assign the highest of the 3 numbers to the skill. All right. Lore. This is the measure of a character's knowledge of the occult and the secrets man was not meant to know. Character begins with a 0 lore score. Hit points. A measure of the character's physical health. A character's lost hit points when they are injured and die if they reach 0 hit points. To determine HP, roll 66, divide by 2, and round up. Record the number on your character's sheet. I just have one question with this. So 66 divided by 2 is the same thing as rolling 3d6. So I'm not sure why you just don't have a span of 3 to 18 rather than rolling 66. Not a big deal. It's just kind of strange. Sanity. It is a measure of the character's mental stability. Sanity may be reduced during play. A character with less than 0 sanity has gone insane. To determine sanity, roll 2d6 and discard the lowest die. Then add 3 to that number and record their sanity. All right, cool. Money. Eldritch Hack RPG assumes most characters are middle-aged and have money. This game is about horror, not bean counting. Assume all characters have enough to cash to pay for a plane ticket to Argentina, book a passage on the Orient Express, or hire a guide in Cairo. All right, so you're not going to get bogged down with that kind of stuff. Pretty much the same rule goes with the equipment. So they'll have their standard stuff that you would think of with their profession. Does a PI pack a 38 snub nose revolver? We'll typo in there, and a flask of whiskey. If it sounds reasonable, the answer is yes. Um, Backup characters, we suggest every player creates a backup character just in case, and that's a good suggestion here. So let's start taking a look at the occupations here. So the occupations have between 3 and 5 words in italics. These are skill areas that the character excels in. However, you can always think of other things that would fall into play here, and so that's up to the game master and the player if they want to talk about, well, what other skills might fall in here. So an author has writing, history, and the occult. um, I could see them also having other abilities like, if we're talking about the 1920s or whatnot. um, you know they might be able to change the ribbon in a typewriter, because that's the nature of their ability. Not that you would want to spend any time doing that, but those are the kinds of other little skills that you might want to think about, um, that might come into play. It certainly should be an easy task for them to do, if not something you ignore. But it's good to think about other things um, outside of these that are written. An antiquarian, an archaeologist, a doctor, a journalist, a private investigator, a professor, a scientist, a socialite, and a specialist. All right. I mean, you could also put in an officer, like a police officer or peace officer, and think about how you would fit that in there as well, and any other kinds of things. Like I would put detective as a separate, but that might fall under specialist as well. Skills and how they work. Real people often possess a wide, sometimes eclectic group of skills, and your Eldritch Hack characters are no different. Players may list 5 to 6 skills on their character sheet in a notes box. These include the skills suggested by the occupation and 2 to 3 others, right? As I mentioned already. Um, you might find that you're using a certain number of skills that you and your GM had mentioned, and previously and utilized previously, and you just add those to there if they seem to be skills you continuously do. Anytime a character attempts a task which is in their wheelhouse or expertise, the player adds their skill score to the test. If the GM rules the task is outside the character's area of expertise, the player does not add their skill score. The GM may also assign a penalty or rule that the task is impossible. An untrained character attempting a heart transplant, for example, yeah, you're going to kill the other player if you're trying to do that. Um, that said, because a character does not have a skill listed, does not mean they cannot do that thing. Yeah. So err on the side of letting them attempt to do what they're looking to do, and you can make it as as difficult or as easy as you wish as a game master. We have character names, and there's a suggestion here for first and last names. The game master section. So let's take a look at this. Weapons. We have some melee weapons. You have a club, you have a fist, you have a knife, you have a sword, and then you have other. Again, you don't have to get into much detail here. Um, any of these things are going to run the range of as little as a D3, um, which, if you don't have D3s, you could just roll a D6 and divide by 2. And then we get to firearms. So you have the Beretta, um, 3 shots, 7 ammo. The pistol, semi-automatic, does a D8. A revolver does a D8. And then you have a rifle, does a D10. And a shotgun does 2D6 or 4D6. I wonder when it does 4D6. Um, Interesting. Possibly short range. We'll see. Um, Firing multiple rounds, they can squeeze off as many as 3 shots in a combat round. If they do this, they incur a -2 penalty for the second and a -4 for the third shot. Unarmed combat, a punch or a kick costs D3. Sorry, a character's trained in unarmed combat do D4. A character's trained in martial arts, rare, do D6. The combat system is not about precise distances, ranges, and defining rules. We believe combat should be fast and fluid. All right. And so you have only 2 zones to think about, here and there. So if they are here, you can punch and kick them, bite them, and do whatever. And if they are there, you can shoot them, throw things at them, and the like. All right. Combat rounds. A round is anywhere from 1 to 3 seconds, enough time for a character to swing a punch, move a few feet, or to pull a trigger, a few feet or 2. Pull a trigger. In 1 round, a character may opt to move 20 to 30 feet, move 10 feet and attack, stand and attack, or run away. Who goes first? The GM decides who goes first based on the situation. If the monster is very fast, it wins automatically. If the GM decides it's a toss-up, roll a d20. The side with the highest number moves first. Yeah, so not individual initiative, and in most cases, you're going to let the situation dictate who goes first. Hitting targets, the GM sets a target number and rolls for the monster and NPCs. The players roll their characters. The TN needed to hit is a 10. The GM may raise or lower the TN in particular circumstances, such as the target has cover, it is a foggy night, the lights are out, the target is unusually quick, and the target is taken by surprise. Critical hits and failures. A critical success, the attacker rolls an extra attack die. So you're not doubling it, you're actually rolling a second attack die, damage die. A roll of a natural 1 is a critical failure that the GM decides on the appropriate consequence: jammed gun, broken finger, dropped weapon, etc. Stunts. Players may want to do something not covered by the rules, such as target a monster's 1 giant eye, downing a power line to electrocute the monster. So basically you're doing stunts and tricks and stuff. When characters attempt a stunt, assign a reasonable target number and have the player roll. If they succeed, the thing happens. The key is the rule of cool. All right. So if it's a cool thing to do, I would set it to like a 15 in that case, and hopefully they can pull it off. If it's extremely crazy, then you assign it the very unlikely to occur with a 20 target number. Physical damage. We have death and injury chart. So a 1 to 10 killed in the glorious way the GM can describe. 11 to 20 is death in D6 rounds unless wounds staunched, with a TN of 15. PC suffers personal scars, the loss of limb or paralysis. The GM decides what's the best for the story. So this is an NPC reduced to 0 hit points is dead. A PC reduced to 0 hit points exactly is knocked unconscious. If the PC is reduced to negative hit points, roll on that chart. So that's what you're going to roll on that chart. So as soon as they get to a -1, there's a good chance that they're dying, a 50-50 chance that they die outright. Sanity tests. So if the GM decides a site is particularly horrific, they may call for a sanity test, assign a target number between 10 and 20. The player must roll the number or higher. Characters with a SAN plus 5 plus SAN points get to add +1 to their sanity roll. All right, success, the player takes their turn normally. Failure, the character is stunned for 1 round and loses sanity points designated by the creature or encounter. GM should call for a sanity test when the character sees such things as a friend or family member dies, a dead body or a pile of dead bodies, a monster not of this earth, or a portal into another dimension. So yeah, you'll just use your judgment. PCs can only be reduced to a 0 sanity, no lower. If a PC is reduced to 0 sanity, the player now rolls a d20. A 1 to 10 is permanently insane. The character is institutionalized or removed from play. An 11 to 20, temporarily insane. The character is institutionalized for d6 months and recovers d6 san. This only works once. After the first time, the PC is permanently insane and removed from play. All right, so we'll jump to recovery here. Arresting characters recover 1 hit point per day. Characters aided by a doctor heal d4 hit points immediately and a further 1 hit point per day. Hospitalized characters are kept 2d6 days and recover all of their hit points. Recovering sanity. A psychologist can restore d4 sanity over 8 weeks of therapy. The patient rationalizes events, believing they were a nightmare or hallucination. Subsequent therapy has no effect. Being committed to the sanitarium restores d6 san in d6 months. A character's sanity can never exceed their initial sanity roll. Rewards, lore, and spells. So the GM may reward players at the end of the session or scenario in the following ways. Test against skill, players roll a d6. If the roll is higher, the PC's current skill score, the skill score increases by 1. A character's skill can never go higher than 6. Gain 1 to 3 sanity. Note, a character's current sanity can never exceed their starting sanity. Gain up to 1 lore. A character's lore can never go higher than 6. Gaining lore. Lore is the knowledge of the true terrible nature of the universe. Characters gain lore points when the GM gives them one as a reward, or they read a forbidden manuscript. And they go through the manuscripts here. When a character encounters a mysterious situation or monster, the GM may permit the players to make a lore test. Target number 20. If they succeed, they intuit something about the creature's intentions or weakness. All right. So that's a very, very hard task to make. But if you already have a lore skill, which remember you start with a 0 to begin with, but if you already have a lore skill, you're going to add that to your roll. And so it makes it a little bit easier to learn that much more about them first time you're seeing them. Forbidden manuscripts. So the Book of Azathoth is a -1 to your sanity, but you gain 1 lore. The Codex Luris Kanaki, is -6 san. So that's a pretty intensive book to read. +2 lore. The Necromonicon is a -2 to san, +2 to lore. The Liber Demonicus is a -1 san, +1 lore. And the Cervi Hominis is a -4 sanity and a +3 to your lore. Feel free to make up evil texts of your own. Yeah, so you could add other things that you find from other, H.P. Lovecraft stories or whatever that's not included there. Magic and spell casting. Spells exist, but they are the most often used in ritual magic and used by evil cultists. Casting spells requires a TN of 15, modified by the caster's lore. A spell that the spell does what the GM says it does. Suggestion: draining or inflicting d6 hit points, summon a creature from another dimension, bind a creature from another dimension, or banish a creature from another dimension. So designing scenarios. So this is really cool. I like the idea of just putting this like quick little tip on how to design a very simple straightforward scenario. So you want the hook. All right, this is the catalyst, as it says here, that involves the characters. Strong hooks include a relative has died recently, usually by suicide, leaving you a letter and or a mysterious family heirloom. Um, you could have a close friend has disappeared or was found murdered. You can have other occupation requires you to accomplish a task, and so on. There's the investigation, is where the player characters accumulate clues. Rules of thumb: each location should contain at least 3 clues. Using handouts whenever possible is a good idea. The complication is the event that is outside of the player's control that creates a sense of urgency and menace. The turn: in a twist that imposes strict limits on the time and or the space. The climax: a climax is the point in which the protagonist and antagonist face off against each other. It will end with the characters defeating the evil or running away, or being killed or destroyed, or driven completely out of their minds. And the denouement is where the PCs relax and reflect on what happened, uh, or are hospitalized, institutionalized. This may take place some weeks or even months. So yeah, I really like the idea of just including this and giving some details and examples and such. So that's really cool. Running the game, and it just goes into that in a little bit more detail, like searching for clues and walking the players through that. Monsters run, so original monsters are always a good idea. Familiarity is not scary. Cthulhu is an idea, not a creature. Cthulhu should never appear in a scenario. PCs cannot kill it. And that would probably go with a lot of the other Cthulhu mythos types of creatures. Um, it gives you a few that you can throw in, like the Gill people, which are, the deep ones. And then you have the gibbering thing from beyond. You have cellar ghouls. You have Dr. Herbert West, could be a protagonist, or no, I'm sorry, an antagonist. West zombies, and the Lord of the Feast, Takul, Lord of the Feast. Pretty, pretty rough thing there. Looking at it, what it can do. Here's the character sheet. So here you have your artsy one with color, and here is the print friendly. Here's the DM sheet, or GM sheet, I should say. So just gives you all of the nuts and bolts of running the game. Also very nice. You could actually even put this as a backing of the player character sheet, and that way your players can have a quick reference as well to what's going on. And here is a here or there. So if you want to use figures on the map, basically just on this thing here, you print this out and put this on the table, and then you can show them with your figures. This is here and this is there. And as I said, I'm not going to go through this scenario. So in all, it is 46 pages of material. Like I said, I'm gonna just zip through this real fast, because I don't want to give away anything. But you can see the art and just the length of the adventure. Some nice maps. I'm trying not to reveal too much. Oh, here we have the writer. So is the proprietor of the YouTube channel Dungeon Craft and the author of several RPGs, including Macbeth, and the Professor DM's Frankenstein. Artist, Jason McDonald. So actually, he's done quite a bit of this art here. And oh, that's the last page. So there you have it. My first installment of independent tabletop role playing game month, and I hope you enjoyed this. I encourage you to jump on to Drive Through RPG and take a look at this if it's something that you'd be interested in. Like I said, it's only $6 for 42 pages. That's fairly and how much there is in there and everything and the art and all of that certainly reasonably priced. And also go to Dungeon Craft on YouTube, Professor DM's YouTube channel, and he has some phenomenal stuff. I love his take on the hobby, and then in particular the games that he looks at and such, and things like this. This kind of a community outreach basically is something that's that certainly is inspiring for us to reach out to other segments of the tabletop role playing hobby. It's something that I also like to do on my channel, in bringing out as large a variety of game systems as I actually have, and keep on showcasing those as well. So hope you like this video. Thanks for popping in. Please leave your questions and comments in the comments section. If you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. Hit the like button. Share this video, not just for my channel's own sake, but to get the word out there for others to participate in the independent tabletop role-playing game month of July. And yeah, let's share some videos out there so that we can see all of the variety of games that are those hidden gems. So you have a great rest of your weekend, and I always look forward to seeing you on the gaming screen or at some tabletop in the future at a convention. I'm already starting to plan out my conventions. Going through the summertime, and in September, the first one that I'm certainly locked into is Shire Con uh, in Connecticut. So not very far from me, about an hour away from me. So I'm really looking forward to that. That is September 15th and 16th, so Friday evening, and then all day Saturday. So definitely look into that as well. So have a great rest of the weekend. Take care.